This is an extremely sad and heartbreaking story of persecution known as the Holocaust. This is going to be a two-part video, and I'll begin part 1 in 1933, when Germany's president Paul von Hindenburg names Adolf Hitler, who you see in the circle there, as the Chancellor of Germany. This is a high-ranking top position in the German cabinet. And the very next year, Paul von Hindenburg, who you see there with the mustache, Paul von Hindenburg, well, he dies. And Hitler quickly moves to take his power as the Chancellor and consolidate the power of the German government. That means he took total control of the government. He names himself Der Führer, which is German for the leader, and he creates a government based on fascism. In a fascist government, you have a strong central authority, like Hitler, that places the nation, the country, above the individual rights and freedoms of the people. And even the German army swore an oath of allegiance to Hitler as their commander-in-chief. They swore to serve him. He installed the Third Reich that he claimed would last for 1,000 years, and there's some symbolism there of the eagle. Within his talons is what is known as the swastika, that sort of broken cross there, and that is the symbol of his political party known as the National Socialist Party, or the Nazi Party. Well, where did this really begin? In 1914 to 1918, when Adolf Hitler was a German soldier in World War I, he was appalled by Germany's loss in the war. He was appalled and angered that the warring powers all blamed him and his country for the death and destruction of the war, that Germany incurred most of the blame. And he blamed this on the enemies within Germany, mainly communists and especially Jews. And that's where he decided to focus most of his hatred, was on the religion and the group of Judaism and Jews. Anti-Semitism means a hatred of Jews, and he chose them as the scapegoat to receive the blame for Germany's economic failures after the war, and especially during the Great Depression. So in 1935, a series of laws are passed in Germany known as the Nuremberg Laws. And in these laws, it states that Jews in Germany lose citizenship, they lost their jobs, their property, and they were forced to self-identify themselves by wearing this yellow Star of David, which is a Jewish symbol, on the outside of their clothing, as you can see in the image there. And this would allow anybody else to identify them as being Jewish. In 1936, something strange happens. Berlin, Germany becomes the host of the Summer Olympics, where athletes from all over the world come to compete in the Summer Games. And Hitler saw this as an opportunity to show off German superiority of their country, of their facilities, and of their athletes. In the photo there, you see on the right a man in white putting his arm up. That is the Heil Hitler salute, or the Hail Hitler salute. So that is a German athlete who is saluting Der Führer. Well, Jesse Owens, who you see in the picture there, an American, and 17 other African Americans won many medals and broke world records. And Hitler sees this as a failure of his athletes, as he wanted to show that they were superior, and then to see them lose to people that he thought were inferior was a slap in the face to Hitler. If you're interested in this, there is a book called The Berlin Boxing Club by Robert Chernow. And if you're interested in athletes, the Olympics, the persecution of Jews, Hitler's rise to power, all of this is involved in the Berlin Boxing Club. I'm going to recommend a few other books throughout these videos. In 1938, Hitler's army, the Nazi army, takes their first aggressive actions by invading Austria to the south. There was a lot of Germanic people in Austria, and this was also the birthplace of Adolf Hitler. And so this is known as the Anschluss, or the merging together of the German people. He encountered zero resistance as the Nazi soldiers marched into Austria, either from Austria or from the rest of Europe. And about 200,000 Jews had fled Germany by this time, realizing that things were going downhill for them. In 1938, the Evian Conference is held, which includes many countries, including the United States, Canada, Australia, Brazil, and they were discussing what to do about these 600,000 German Jews who were beginning to be persecuted. And the fact is, these countries, they offered very little help. They refused to increase the amount of people immigrating into their country. The United States had only allowed 27,000 Germans and Austrians to enter each year, and they did not increase that number. So at this moment, the rest of the world said, "You're on your own." Then Kristallnacht happens. That's German for the Night of Broken Glass. And what we see is 267 synagogues are burned. Those are Jewish places of worship. 2,000 Jews are killed. 30,000 Jews are arrested. Hundreds of Jewish businesses and homes are attacked. And it is very clear now that the German people and the Nazis are persecuting the Jews and blaming them. And this was the time to escape. World War II had not begun yet. Hitler had not made it clear that his goal was to kill all of the Jews, which we're going to find out is going to come to light as his ultimate goal. And so some of these German Jews begin to escape. An example of that is in 1939, this German ocean liner known as the St. Louis. It loads 943 Jewish passengers in Germany and leaves towards the United States. 740 of them had the official proper U.S. immigration papers to be able to immigrate into the United States. But as it sailed to Miami, Florida, the American government decided not to let any of them disembark. It forced the ship to return to Europe with all of its passengers, and ultimately 254 of them could have been saved and instead died in the Holocaust. If this is an interesting story to you, I recommend the book Refugee by Alan Gratz, which references the story of the St. Louis. In 1939, the Nazi military and government begins to relocate Jews out of their homes, force them to leave their homes, took their property and forced them into what are known as ghettos. And these are not just bad places, these are horrific, terrible places that are sealed in with barbed wire or fences. They would build brick walls around parts of the city and force the Jews to move into these overcrowded areas that are just filled with disease and hunger. And we start to see people die, and the bodies of the victims are often just left in the street, and disease spreads. If you're interested in this story, there's a excellent series called Maus by Art Spiegelman. It won the Pulitzer Prize, and it is a graphic novel of this persecution. I highly recommend Maus. From there, Jews are then relocated from the ghettos into concentration camps, which are forced labor camps where they're going to be forced to work, but also we'll find out that they're going to be forced to die. And you can see them loading onto the cattle cars on the train tracks to be moved to those concentration camps, men, women, and children. If this is interesting to you, I recommend the book Code Name Verity by Elizabeth Wein. In 1939, Hitler and the Nazis also invade and annex Czechoslovakia, which is a country to the south and to the east. And now we're seeing Hitler really flexing his muscles to the rest of the world to show that he is going to invade and take what he wants, and he's challenging the world to stop him. And still, the European countries and the rest of the world turn their eyes away and do nothing, until in September, when Hitler invades Poland, the neutral country to the east. This is when the Allied countries, Great Britain and France, realize that Hitler will not be stopped unless they do something about it, and so those countries decide to declare war on Hitler and the Nazis. That's the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of the Holocaust, this extremely sad and heartbreaking story of persecution.